Hello guys, we are back with our new video. It's about redox reaction. In this video, we are going to discuss about oxidation reduction along with their examples, and we are going to understand how they would come in one reaction. So without wasting any time, let's get started. Okay, let's start with the redox reaction. So what is a redox reaction? Let's open it up. It says red plus ox, where red represents itself as reduction and ox represent itself as oxidation. So we can see when reduction and oxidation comes together, that's going to be known as redox reaction. Now, so its definition says that what is a redox reaction? This is a reaction in which oxidation and reductions comes together, that is known as redox reaction. Now let's discuss the oxidation and reduction with respect to their definition and examples. So what is the oxidation? Let's talk about its definition, which says this is a reaction in which either addition of oxygen or removal of, or you may say loss of hydrogen takes place is known as oxidation reaction. So what is the oxidation reaction? In which either you may see addition of oxygen or you may see loss of hydrogen. Now let's discuss few examples. For example, let's discuss the example with respect to either or condition. Very first, with addition of oxygen. So when we are checking the examples with respect to addition of oxygen, so we are having first example. If I'm adding oxygen in copper, I know what I'm going to get, copper oxide. So here copper gets changed into copper oxide. Of course, it corresponds to oxidation. Now let's say if I'm adding oxygen in hydrogen, what do I get? I can get water molecule. Let's write down in the balanced form. Okay, so now in this case you may see your hydrogen gets changed into water by the addition of oxygen. Again, if it's addition of oxygen, it corresponds to oxidation. Now let's see few examples with the loss of hydrogen. So when we are talking about the examples with loss of hydrogen, what we are having, for example, we are having hydrogen sulfide. If I am passing chlorine gas through it, I will get hydrogen chloride and sulfur. Let's write it down in the balanced form. Now here you can see previously your sulfur comes with hydrogen, but after this reaction it remains sulfur only. So what we can observe from here it has done with the loss of hydrogen. Okay, so as per our observation, if loss of hydrogen is there, what it's going to correspond? It's going to correspond oxidation once again. By the definition of oxidation, we know that it comes either with the addition of oxygen or with the loss of hydrogen. Now let's see another example. So if we are having, let's say, hydrogen, and in the hydrogen, if I am adding oxygen, then it will give me nitrogen and water molecule. Again, let's write down in the balanced form. Now here what we can see we are having hydrogen, that is N2H4, which gets changed into nitrogen on the addition of oxygen. So what it means? It means here we can observe that hydrogen corresponds to loss of hydrogen as it gets changed into nitrogen here. So if loss of hydrogen is there, what it's going to correspond? It's going to correspond oxidation. Hope it makes sense. Now let's go to the definition of reduction. When we are coming to reduction, again, what is a reduction reaction? This is a reaction in which either addition of hydrogen or removal of, or you may say loss of, oxygen takes place. That's known as reduction reaction. So what we have to take care? In this case, either we can see addition of hydrogen or we can see loss of oxygen. Now let's see a few examples. Very first, with addition of hydrogen. For example, if I am adding again hydrogen in oxygen, what I can observe, I can get water molecule. Just to write down in the balance form, I will write 2 in front of hydrogen and water. Now let's see the change. So here we can see previously we are using only one molecule of oxygen which gets changed into water. So here we can easily see the addition of hydrogen in the oxygen which corresponds to water. So if addition of hydrogen is there, it should be reduction reaction. So this is a good example of reduction reaction. Let's see one more example with regard of this. So if I am adding, let's say, hydrogen in chlorine, then in that case what I am going to get? I am going to get hydrogen chloride. Just to balance it, let's write 2 here. Now you may see in this case we have added hydrogen in chlorine. Again, addition of hydrogens take place, which going to be corresponds reduction. Now let's see few examples with the loss of oxygen. We know loss of oxygen also corresponds to reduction. Now let's see some examples with that. For example, if we are passing hydrogen gas through copper oxide, then it will give you copper in water molecule. Here you may easily see copper oxide gets changed into copper, which corresponds to loss of oxygen. Of course, that is again example of reduction. Now similarly, if I will pass hydrogen gas through lead oxide, it will give you lead in water molecule. Now in this case, if you will see, your lead oxide gets changed into lead again, which corresponds to loss of oxygen. So now we have already done all the definition which corresponding reduction either with the addition of hydrogen or with the loss of oxygen. Now let's discuss about redox reaction. So as we had discussed previously in the very first of this video, that what is a redox reaction? That this is a reaction in which oxidation and reduction comes together. Yes, so this is a reaction in which these two, oxidation and reduction, comes together. That's going to be redox reaction. Now let's see few examples. For example, if we are having copper oxide, when we will pass through it hydrogen gas, we know it's going to give you copper and water. So in this case, if you will see, your copper oxide gets changed into copper. That corresponds to loss of oxygen. Okay. Now in the next, you may see your hydrogen has changed into water. So if I will go from this to this, what I can observe here, we can see addition of oxygen. Now let's revise their definition. Whose definition? Oxidation and reduction. So what was that? We know what was oxidation. Oxidation comes either with the addition of oxygen, yes, or with the loss of hydrogen. What was reduction? Reduction was, it corresponds to either addition of hydrogen or loss of oxygen. Now you may see where you are having loss of oxygen. Here we are having loss of oxygen, so it means it's going to correspond reduction. Okay, now where we can see addition of oxygen. So when we are looking over addition of oxygen, we are having here addition of oxygen, it means it's going to correspond oxidation. Okay, so we can say this is a good example of redox reaction. Yes, because here we can see reduction and oxidation together. Now let's discuss one more example. Okay, let's discuss few more examples. Here we are having hydrogen sulfide. When I will pass chlorine through the hydrogen sulfide, I will get hydrogen chloride and sulfur. Okay, so now in this reaction we can see the change in hydrogen sulfide to sulfur. That change corresponds to loss of hydrogen. Where we can see loss of hydrogen? Here, so it corresponds to oxidation. That's fine. Okay, now what else we are having? We are having chlorine to hydrogen chloride. Okay, now in this case you may see addition of hydrogen. Okay, now let's see where we can see in the definition addition of hydrogen. Here we are having, so it corresponds to reduction. So as we can see, oxidation and reduction together in one reaction. So we can say this reaction is redox reaction, as oxidation and reduction comes together in one reaction. So this is a good example of redox. Now let's see one more example. If we are having copper oxide and we are passing hydrogen gas through it, we will get copper and water molecule. Now in this you may see copper oxide gets changed to copper. As it change itself to copper, it means it corresponds to loss of oxygen, and loss of oxygen we can see in reduction. It means it corresponds to reduction. Okay, now what else we are having? We are having here hydrogen which changed itself into water. Okay, so what we can observe here? In this case we can see hydrogen corresponds to addition of oxygen. So where we can see addition of oxygen? Here we have. So addition of oxygen always corresponds to oxidation. So now we can see again this is a good example of redox reaction. Why? Because here oxidation and reduction again coming together in the same reaction, or you can see here oxidation and reduction comes simultaneously. So this is all about the redox reaction. Thanks for watching the video. Please subscribe my channel for more tutorial and feel free to send me an email if you have any query.